Figure I'd talk about something else, though, and some other news. 76ers, baby. James Harden made his debut last night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I talked briefly on Run It Back Philly when I called in, talked about the James Harden trade and exciting it and how exciting it was because, this was kind of something that we had needed, you know, um, in the sense of, we really needed a guy that could just come on the floor and make open shots, and not only make open shots, but create shots and create opportunity. Um, oh no, for our team and Harden, last night, and I've never been the biggest James Harden guy, to be honest with you. His time in Houston, he was definitely a bright spot. But it just never seemed like he could really put it together in the postseason, and he was always getting exploited. And I think it's just really because there wasn't as many scoring options on that team. I mean, you look at like Capella; he wasn't really like when he was there, he wasn't all that much of a scoring threat for defenses. Chris Paul's always been the floor general, as they call him, facilitator, playmaker. And Chris Paul can give you 20 points, 25 points a game. Well, probably not even. Well, maybe more now so than then. But what my point is that Chris Paul was never really like a scoring option for teams. Maybe in his time in New Orleans, years ago. But in recent history, he's been really just more known as a playmaker and a leader. And James Harden, he's really. Oh, you really want to do this with me, bro? Anyway, James Harden though, yeah, and my thing was with him in Houston was just that he never really had another piece. I mean, Eric Gordon, I mean, he had some good runs with Harden at times, but um, yeah, sure, because I want to worry about these guys since they want to fight. Let's dance then. And Harden, like, then he ends up going to the Brooklyn Nets, and from the beginning, the Nets were gonna fail. They were going to fail. Um, you know, as soon as you see those three guys come together, you just knew the style was not going to work. They all are ball dominant players. They all wanted the ball in their hands. Kyrie Irving, KD, James Harden, they all want the ball in their hands. They're all these floor generals that want to be able to have the ball in their hands when the game's on the line, and that kind of creates a little bit of a conflict of interest for the team. And this is before the pandemic, before the governor and the mayor put the mandates on it and trapped Kyrie. Before all that happened, um, you know this was going to be a failure from the beginning. You had a bunch of, and the problem is that they overextended themselves on salary, trying to sign Harden, trying to sign, Kyrie Irving, trying to sign KD, and it ended up blowing up in their face, just like everybody knew it would. Maybe not the way we thought it would, but it ended up blowing up in their face regardless. And I thought maybe it would take a little bit longer than it did, but things happen the way they do. So, James Harden was kind of left out there, and like I mentioned that with the Ben Simmons thing was like I was like we need to get rid of this guy off principle. Like if he's gonna hold out like this, what kind of precedent is this gonna set that he can just get what he wants? But frankly, I was kind of wrong in that sense. Like it was smart to hold out, hold him, and know that some team was just going to be willing to take a stab on him. I mean, that's how it is in the NBA. If you just hold out long enough, and that's I guess the lesson I've learned from this whole situation is like if you just hold out long enough, somebody's going to want to make a deal because they're going to get desperate. And they're going to get desperate. They're going to want to make a move. And ultimately, that's kind of what happened here. Daryl Morey, man, he's really great. I've really been impressed with him. Even in his time in Houston, I thought he was really smart in the way he was able to make deals for Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul and all these things. And even though they didn't work out, and hey, this may not work out. I mean, as good as they looked last night, I could see this blowing up in our face in the playoffs. I mean, James Harden has never been known as a playoff closer by any sorts of the imagination. I mean, he's been locked down on several different playoff series, particularly with Houston. I know they went up against that Golden State monolith a couple of years, and they got in bad luck with Chris Paul getting hurt, and Russ never really worked out. And Russ, he's just the king of taking bad long twos, and him and Harden's fit was just not great, but. I think this is the best opportunity for James Harden, in my opinion. But, as for Morey and what I was saying earlier, I think it was just kind of brilliant to hold Simmons out and dangle him over people's heads and just know that somebody was going to take a stab on him. And honestly, it's a robbery that we were able to do this without, with only just giving up Seth Curry. Well, we gave up Simmons, but he was a net negative just having him on the team. I had mentioned that. I was at the point where I was like, because I just didn't think anybody would trade for him at the time. That's why I was saying we should cut him, and because it set a bad precedent, and it still does. The fact that these players can just hold out and get what they want and get traded. I don't like that concept. I just don't think that's fair to these organizations and the fan bases of these organizations, in my opinion. But, whatever. It ended up working out in our favor in the long run. But, yeah, I'm playing the long game, waiting for the deadline, and it's crazy because Morey basically had to keep Brooklyn in negotiations, and honestly, he kind of just talked them into this almost. It feels like because this is a net L for the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, they got Seth Curry. I mean, that was the biggest thing we lost was Curry because frankly, and I was saying this on the phone call with DJ Eastwood and Greg Melly and RB Philly Take. I was telling them, I'm like, look. Drummond was a 1-year rental anyway. So, I mean, I wasn't even upset getting rid of Andre Drummond. He's arguably one of the best backup bigs in the league. He was going to get paid by somebody to be their center more than we were going to pay him. So it's like, that didn't really bother me as much as, say, the Seth Curry thing. And even so, Curry was, he had a great run in the playoffs last year. He was making a lot of shots for us when we needed it. But again, do you take James Harden, who is one of the best scorers of the past 15 years, or do you take Seth Curry, who had one good playoffs and has honestly been pretty lackluster this year outside of making open shots? And a lot of the times I watched him pass up open looks a lot, and that really frustrated me with Curry. And look, I like Curry, and I think he was the biggest loss. But like I said, Harden versus Curry, you can't be too upset with it. So going into Harden and last night, it's pretty amazing the way they looked last night. And look, I know that's not going to be sustainable. They were just hot. They were fired up. They were excited to have James Harden on the team. Excuse me. However, the floor spacing in and of itself was visibly different. And I was pretty impressed by that, honestly. And I was really impressed with James Harden last night. I mean, hitting the step backs. He hit 3 step back threes, one at the end of the game in front of Karl Anthony Towns that had me just like, oh my goodness. I mean, it just was so nice to see a player wearing a 76ers jersey be able to create shots, be able to get space, to be able to, blow by guys and get to the rim. I mean, he had that crazy and one, which was his first bucket as a Sixer at the beginning of the game. I mean, it was just such a relief to see a guard out there that could handle the ball, create shots, wasn't afraid to shoot. I mean, he made more threes last night than Ben Simmons made in his entire career in Philly. So, I mean, that in and of itself right there is almost a net win, even if Harden walks at the end of the summer, because he hasn't picked up his option yet. I think DJ Eastwood told me that he did, but I don't think he did. But Harden said he probably will. But again, who knows? We'll have to see what happens with that. And I mean, if things fail, then he walks, and it was worth the risk anyway. Because I mean, what were we going to get for Simmons? Nothing. The fact that we got this out of Simmons is amazing to me. And this is great. I'm excited, and this is the first time I've really been excited about the Sixers since probably the Jimmy Butler season. I'm really interested and excited to see what they do with this. And look, is there going to be growing pains? Is this going to be as easy as, a lot of people are thinking? Of course not. But, I think overall, there's a lot to like here. And of course, like the shot creation and Tyrese Maxey, man. Tyrese Maxey has been great. I can't do anything with these guys. I want to just invade. But no, kind of talking about Harden and everything a little bit more is just like the floor spacing was so impressive last night. And I know it's not going to be that great all the time. And I know we were just playing the Timberwolves, and I know in the playoff basketball, and that's going to be my biggest thing I'm going to get into is half-court offense. This team has to swing the ball against 2-3 zone, and they did it a lot more in this game than they have all year long, which is definitely heartening. And the fact that you got a guy like Harden, like there was multiple possessions where the clock was just running out, we needed a bucket, and Harden was either dishing it off to an open guy or just taking a shot himself, and that was such a relief to see a guy create something in those situations, because usually the Sixers are all just standing around at the three-point line and either giving it to Joel in a triple team or getting a shot clock violation. I mean, or somebody, Danny Green or Shake Milton or whoever, just dribbling around and then getting a shot clock violation. So it was just really nice to see fluid ball movement. Everybody who was touching the ball was either, that wasn't James Harden or Joel Embiid, was just swinging it. And that's how it needs to be, man. Just swing the ball, especially against these 2-3 zones. And you watch, the Timberwolves came out in a 2-3 zone and they kind of flustered us a little bit, but as soon as the chemistry and the ball movement and everything started kind of working, that kind of came to an end. The 2-3 zone, it came to an end, and the Sixers were able to really get a grasp on the situation. And we're able to shut down that 2-3, and it obviously helped get Joel working, because he was kind of struggling with that 2-3 in the first half. But James Harden's shot creation, Tyrese Maxey's speed to the rim, and him making those little mid-range jumpers was really nice. I mean, Tyrese Maxey, this kid he's our third option, man. He's got to be the man, because Tobias Harris, I've pretty much given up on at this point. And that's the good news, I guess, about Harden too, is that you don't really have to rely on Tobias Harris as much. You don't really have to worry as much about him, because he's he doesn't need to be relied upon as much anymore, because he's he's like the fourth option now, so he can just do his little post ups, and he was kind of being a spot up shooter last night, which I don't hate for him, but he just can't shoot, so like that's kind of problematic. But like I said, there's a lot to like here, but at the same time, I'm not gonna sit here and be ready to say that this team is going to win the title or anything like that, but I think they're much more in the contention picture now than they were, just a mere few weeks ago. I mean, where this team just offensively looked dead at times, dead in the water, outside of Joel, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. James Harden, I think it was a smart move, though. It is. It's a smart move to gamble like this, Just like it was with even Al Horford and some of that stuff. Just even try. I mean, the Horford contract was bad, but I think just going and getting a guy like that is a good gamble. Obviously, it failed miserably. And at the time, I was like, this could work if we actually play bully ball, which we didn't. But I don't know. It's interesting. It's really interesting to see what they're gonna do as far as contending for the title. and whatnot. But yeah, I'm really excited, man. I'm really excited for the first time with this team, and I'm just excited to watch them, which is one thing that I haven't been able to say for a while because they've just been a chore to watch at times, over the last 2 years, just because the spacing has been such a mess. So yeah, the spacing would be such a mess. Um, yeah, we'll do that. But yeah, I think it's just it was such a mess, and it made this team so boring to watch. And I think defensively this team was really impressive last night, and not necessarily Harden. And you're not going to get a lot of defensive production from Harden, but as long as you can get shooting, and he can give you 25 points a game and over 8 assists and over 6 rebounds, which he did last night. If he can give you that every night, let's say 24 points a game, 8 assists, 6 rebounds. If James Harden give you that every night, we're gonna cook teams. We're gonna cook teams. Seriously, I mean, like that's what we've been looking for, is a guy that can just get a bucket, especially with the shot clock running down or with the game on the line, or if things are just slow, which this team has a lot of those situations where things are just slow. Where's this place at? But yeah, like I gotta fix this whole situation. How do I fix the troubled populace? But no, yeah, just kind of kind of wrapping up how this is going. Oh great, Libya's pissed off too. But yeah, just being able to just being able to swing the ball around, to have guys that can, like a Harden, that can just come in the game and get you a bucket. It's just refreshing for this team, and it's gonna work wonders for Joel. And the pick and roll between Joel and Harden is gonna be a lot of fun. Maxey is gonna benefit heavily from this, just being able to do his thing and run the floor and beat guys off the dribble and hit his little short jumpers and even some open threes. And I think for Tobias Harris, like I said, he can just whatever with him, man. I hope we deal him after in the summer. But again, we got him right now, so if he can just give us 16 a game and do his little post-ups and his little floaters and my thing is with him, just be a spot-up shooter at this point. If he can be a spot-up shooter too, like he took a couple of spot-up jump shots from Harden, off feeds from Harden, and I think, that could really benefit Tobias. So I think, the rising tides are going to potentially raise all boats here in terms of in terms of the Sixers. But yeah, really going to be interesting, man. Really going to be interesting, and this team is finally exciting. And James Harden, could he be the puzzle piece that we need? Who knows? But yeah.